Hey, I'm glad to be back with you tonight. We're gonna do really just an all opinion, with the exception of talking about Scooter. And as people already know, Scooter is a border collie, about 9 years old, and he has cancer. It's taken me a couple days to get a handle on my emotions, but my wife has done a lot of research, and she saved one of our dogs, her dog, a Schnauzer, who should have died 2.5 years ago of uh, diabetes, having strokes and things. And she did a lot of research and worked with a good vet that brought the dog down for 5 straight days and got a handle on it. So Scooter right now is still pretty healthy. I walked him well 6,000 steps yesterday, and when we got back to the yard, he wanted to go play with the frisbee. Today I took him on 2 walks, so he walked, I guess, about 10,000 steps. And also, um, plus, playing in the yard. And I didn't go to the gym with me today. He stayed in the car, but he could see me. But what's amazing, I'm getting a lot of support and people are riding scooter or trying to get a hold of him. So now, what I'm going to do, because he is my best buddy, if you'd like to send him an email, you send it to me, attention Scooter. He likes to have a title, so I call him Scooter, and his title is a TDD, truck driving dog. But it's Cowboy Rons, RONS, at gmail.com. And I will make sure every night when he gets up on the foot of my bed, I will read those emails to him. Now, what I originally started this out with, and then I found out I was getting a lot of people wanting to know about Scooter. I want to do an opinion on World War III. I've been accused by college professors when I was a tour guide of being a historian. And I mentioned to them I don't have any degrees. And they said historians are is uh, one who loves history. And I guess I was asked once, well, why do I like history so much? Well, it's interesting. That's uh, is for sure. But I've always thought it was a roadmap to get to where you're going or understand what's about to happen to you. You need to know where you've been. So the gravity of we go into a third world war is incalculable. But if you wanted to draw a simple graph starting here where this finger is, and you put down 19 million people killed in the First World War, then going up here 80 years, 40 years later, I'm sorry, let me go back down here, 40 years later, Second World War was about 50 million. They're still counting, still finding bodies. But now that was only 20 years apart. Extend that 80 years away. Well, you're talking about 1.5 billion. Now, I realize that's only one simple mathematical graph, but it's enough to get my attention. And what I really hate about war the most is that it affects the children. They're innocent. My God, they're innocent. Can't say it any better than that. The women folks are innocent, the elderly, and they're the ones that suffer the most. I don't care too much what men do, as long as it's done fairly. So how are we going to get there? Well, we have administration, the Biden administration, that is perceived as being weak. Okay, and Biden administration is really an extension of the Obama administration. Now, you remember in the Obama administration, he drew a line in the sand. I think was it Turkish people? I could be corrected, but he drew a line in the sand. They violated what he told them that was going to happen, and he didn't follow through on it. Whereby Trump, if he says something, it was going to happen. Okay, now Russia went into Ukraine, And I believe if we'd had a stronger administration, they wouldn't have done that. But clearly, he's been branded as a war criminal. There's war crimes going on. If he hadn't have went into Ukraine and had imposed sanctions against them or other punitive actions, people might have appreciated his stance that he was trying to protect Mother Russia from Ukraine becoming part of the um, not the UN or the other parts. I don't forget what it is right now. So how are we going to get to World War III? And also for the Biden administration to stop this, they have to be able to negotiate with Russia. And with Russia, you have to be able to believe in the other guy, believe in his word. And how can they believe in this administration when the American people don't? The American people are not dumb. I mean, they're not always well informed, but the Homeland Security says there's no border crisis. Then you go on television and you see thousands of illegal storming the bridges, rushing the troops. You see people dying. You see people in the desert being found in truck trailers, suffocated. And the American people are not going to go along with this. Are you going to believe Biden or your lying eyes? Folks, we're going to believe our lying eyes because they're not lying. So if the American people don't believe this administration, why should Russia believe it? Now, I would say that there's a lot of bad people in this thing. For example, the United States, I think, could give the Ukrainians everything they need to kick Russia's sorry ass out of their country. My God, they've shown that they're willing to fight, they're willing to sacrifice, but maybe the gun lobbyists don't want to see it end up so quick. Can you imagine Afghanistan if it had been finished up in 6 months instead of 18 years? How much money the gun lobbyists and the gun people would have lost? Now, to get into World War III, we need more than just a couple countries. But don't forget, each country has many allies. Like even us, the President of the United States does not have to have a declaration of war to support for 90 days. Now, 90 days to support an invasion against our country, but he can go to war to defend a treaty. I imagine all the other countries have got treaties. Okay, now let's jump across the Pacific Pond to Taiwan and China. We made a commitment to these people that we will help defend them. Now, that's not sending food stamps. That's putting boots on the ground. And boy, I hope that don't come. Why? Because both the Chinese and Taiwan will fight. I think China right now is looking to see what's going to happen with Russia. If Russia gets their nose blooded and they break the bank, if they can't come in and help China, I think they'll think differently. But that is about the only thing we can do is to prepare these people. And I hope it don't come to that. There's there's a couple more possibilities. One is not probable. If President Trump or a strong leader was to become president in the next 6 weeks, and that's not going to happen. I'm not even suggesting it could happen or should happen. The other thing is the conservative, and I'm calling on this, the conservative networks, the Fox, Newsmax, Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity, and any of the other responsible news stations, mainstream, liberal, that want to prevent war, we need to start showing the history of our country. People forget history. For example, Second World War, well, we didn't just charge in there as a cavalry coming over the hill. We were an isolationist country. We did not want to get involved in that war, even no matter how bad it was. And it was being, I've always thought we should have got in sooner. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, one of my favorite presidents, um, he started the Lend-Lease thing where we didn't send sail ships to England, but we loaned them ships. It was a lease program. And if you didn't think that wasn't going to get you in the Second World War, I don't know anybody could have been that naive. But what actually got us in there was when Japan, and that's a story for another day, uh, killed about 3,500 people at Pearl Harbor. What was viewed as a sneak attack. They were trying to get the Declaration out, but they had a two-finger typist in Washington, D.C. at the embassy, and they didn't. The raid happened before they ever got the Declaration of War out. But um, once we got involved, people had differences. Blacks, whites came together. The Navajo uh, code talkers. Now, Navajo is, I've been on the reservation. I took 8-hour horseback ride in Monument Valley one year. Just think, 1941, just 55 years before that. That's not much. 55 years before that, the cavalry, the army, and the Indians and Geronimo was fighting it out. But 55 years later, along with every other American, they stepped up and did, in my judgment, more than their share. So we come together quickly. But the rub of this situation right now, we need the news media, and please give the news media a call. We need to get the word out that if we go to war, this country will come together overnight. Overnight. I'm not talking about a police action or things that's drug out, but if the leader says we're going in to win, and I hope it will be unconditional surrender, we will unite. And that message has to get out. And people of other countries, and they do study history, but they need to be reminded that this administration will do what the American voter tells them to do. Again, I appreciate all the support you're giving me for Scooter. We're going to keep posting anything that we try, and we'll tell you the results, but remind you whatever works on one dog is like human beings don't necessarily work on the other. And you need to do your own due diligence and work with the uh, help of your vet. Good night, and hope you live as long as you want and never want as long as you live.